Again, this video will show you how to annotate by using notice and note. The topic of this article is journalism. So these are the standards that we are trying to address. The main one is finding the central idea, determining the central idea, and in a way summarizing the main points and pulling them out in order to use them to answer the prompt. The prompt is what should help you, what should lead you, on what specifically to choose from the article. For example, the prompt says, how has journalism in the United States changed over time? The second question, how have these changes affected society? What we do from this point on is to collect information that will answer those questions. The signpost on the left, as you can see, they give you an idea of what kind of information to collect. Anything that has opposing views, contrasts and contradictions, write it down. But again, looking at the two questions that are given in the prompt. Extreme language, numbers and stats, and I will add years as well. Quoted words, for anybody that's being quoted. Now, in order to save time, I've already highlighted quotes from this article, and I'm going to go ahead and continue all the way to the end. And word gaps are words that you absolutely have no idea what they mean, but you do not want to skip in case they are that important to understanding the whole article. So here's another quote. What you need to do when selecting a quote is ask yourself, does it answer the prompt questions that you have in front of you? You want to make sure that if it doesn't, don't use it. So just because they're highlighted in here does not mean that you must use them. Now, because I wanted to save time, I highlighted all the quotes, and this is one of the signposts that you have. It would be this one right here, quoted words and quoting others, okay? So let's begin. Now, this article has been separated by numbers, I guess, in different paragraphs. What you need to ask yourself is, when I read this paragraph, is there anything right away that I should jot down, that I should note or annotate? As you can see, it's the intro. One thing that stuck out for me is newspapers. I asked myself, when was the last time I actually held a paper in my hand? And most likely all of you have not had actually read a newspaper that you actually flipped, the pages. So most of us read on the phone or on the computer. So that's something that you can start asking yourself if it answers the question, how has journalism changed in the United States over time? It has changed. Most people don't buy newspapers anymore. They read them online. Okay, so that's one thing that you can annotate right away. And that's also one thing that's different. The news, as before, they used to use paper, and that means cutting down trees. Now they just use zeros and ones, and everything's digital, and it comes straight to your phone. There's nothing to be recycled other than the phone itself when it doesn't work. So that's something that can be a contrast straight from the first paragraph. The second paragraph, you can look to see if you have any extreme language that you can use, any words that you do not understand, write them down. Now the boxes here at the bottom, you can write them in bullets, complete sentences, or phrases. But when you write in complete sentences, you're closer to finishing your essay. So make sure that you decide if you want to do most of the work up front so that it becomes easier at the end, or you just write minimally, but you have to expand or explain those details that you have chosen. This one I highlighted because watchdogs, because it's what journalism represents according to this paragraph. So you have to know what that word means. If you don't, then you need to look it up. The other detail that I have is this. Whoa, that didn't work. Okay. These three items are things that journalism represents. And let me highlight them in a different color so you can see. And the job of journalists is to question actions of the government officials, confirm the truth of what officials tell the public, gather facts that citizens need in order to make informed decisions. That's the expectation. That's what the public expects journalists to do. Now, does that answer any of the two questions? Okay. It would probably most likely deal with the second one, because when journalists all of a sudden have competition from YouTubers or people randomly on the street making videos and posting them and going viral, then all of a sudden journalists no longer have a week or a month to write a story. Now everything is at the moment, like everything is 24/7. So as you continue to read, pull out information, again, looking at the two questions that are given in the prompt. What can I use to answer that question? Now, these years, they're important because those are connected to the first question. You can start comparing how journalism was at the beginning and how it came about, how the rights were given, the freedom of the press. So you can compare that. You can trace that from the beginning to now. As you continue to read, again, find information that will answer those two questions. There is information about the Civil War. There is information from the beginning, right after the War of Independence, when the Constitution was written, then the Civil War, and then if you continue to read, you will notice that there is also a reference to the Vietnam War and the years right there. So that means that there is an evolution or a tracing, or if you go back to the original question, there is a line that shows how journalism has changed over time. So if you pay attention to those events, you'll be able to write about how journalism managed to stay alive or managed to function throughout history. Now, as you can see right here, throughout US history, that I think you can make a case that it is an absolute language. Please continue to read this. This is the last paragraph. Annotate only what you need, what you think will meet the requirements that are being asked in these two questions. What information can you use that shows change, and what information can you use that show how these changes themselves have affected society even now? And you can write how it affected society in each generation, or just how it affects society now. Okay, this concludes this video. I hope that you're able to annotate. Again, you're writing in these spaces right here, either bullets, complete sentences, or phrases, but in the end, anything that you write has to answer the prompt.